So Emmett Fox's reading is called Children of the Most High. Fox asks us to open by reading Matthew chapter 7 from 7 to 11. And I'm reading it from the Lamsa translation. And they worship me in vain when they teach the doctrines of the commandments of men. For you have ignored the commandment of God, and you observe the tradition of men, such as the washing of cups and pots and a great many other things like these. He said to them, you certainly do injustice to the commandment of God so as to sustain your own tradition. For Moses said, honor your father and your mother, and he who curses father or mother, let him be put to death. But you say, a man may say to his father or mother, what is left over is korban, is my offering. In other words, I don't have to take care of you.
Okay. So this is the wonderful passage in which Jesus enunciates the primary truth of the fatherhood of God. He says here, definitely and clearly, that the real relationship of God and man is that of parents and child. It is extremely difficult to realize the far-reaching importance that this declaration holds for the life of the soul. It is axiomatic, of course, that the offspring must be of the same nature and species as the parent. And so if God and man are indeed father and child, man must be essentially divine too, and susceptible of infinite development up the rising pathway of divinity. That is to say, as man's true nature unfolds, he will expand in spiritual consciousness until he has transcended all bounds of human imagination. It is in reference to our glorious destiny that Jesus himself says elsewhere, quoting the older scriptures, Jesus answered them, it is not written in your law. Jesus answered them, is it not written in your law? I said, ye are gods. If he called them gods, unto whom the word of God came, and the scripture cannot be broken. And that's from John chapter 10, verse 34 to 35. I'll move into our talk that Lori has for us tonight.
So the title of the talk tonight is No More Dogma. And there's so much to this topic that I have a lot of notes, and in starting to share what I want to share, which is how to free ourselves from knee-jerk reactions to the dogma we've taken in and to the beliefs that we've practiced, the thoughts that we've practiced. I want to do two things. I'm going to ask you a deceptively simple question. And I'm also going to tell you, before I ask you the deceptively simple question, about a few steps in my development in my relationship with God. When I was a kid, I wasn't even sure I believed in God. People talked about God. I come from a non-religious Jewish background. And yet I grew up around lots and lots of Christians, so I seem to have imbibed more of that than of actual Judaism, except for the sense of Judaism, which I love. And I wanted to know, where was God? I couldn't see God. I couldn't figure that out. What was I supposed to believe in? Was I even going to believe in a God? So for a long time, I didn't believe in that. Fast forward many years to when I met the great Saint Amachi, and I felt my oneness with this being that was so high that had to be God, or at the very least, Godness, a sort of Godness-like thing. And I said, oh my God, there is Godness, there is God stuff there. Oh my God, and I'm connected to it. And then what I wanted in my relationship with God was to feel that all the time, 100% of my life, every single moment. I wanted that. I wanted that. As I have moved forward from there, which is now a good 35 years ago or so, I've gone into different aspects to my relationship with the divine and different things that I've wanted. So my deceptively simple question for you, and I invite you to answer it as best you can right now for yourself, is what do you want from your relationship with the divine? What do you want? Do you want God to be that being that gives you the things that you want? Do you want that constant relationship with kindness and love and grace? Is that what you want? Do you want to be healed by God? What do you want from your relationship with God? The reason that I ask this question is we live in cognitive, what's the word? Cognitive dissonance with our spiritual journey. We say that there are lots of things we believe, and yet we live in contradiction and react in contradiction to the spiritual things that we say we believe. And a first step, a first step, not there are many first steps, and they are all dependent on each one of us, but a very powerful first step in my journey has been to hold my own feet to the fire, to say, if I believe this truth, how can I then be living by this one? So bringing one's awareness to that cognitive dissonance, which I will show you examples in a little while, is a very powerful thing to do. It's disturbing. Let's be honest, it's disturbing because what we do generally as a culture, we humans, what we do with our spiritual journey is we look for those answers that will make us feel better for the moment. And we settle for good enough. We settle for stability, which makes it very, very difficult to really reach for the stars. It really makes it difficult to take a step outside of that comfort zone of okayness and challenge ourselves to reach within ourselves, within our beliefs and our thoughts and our emotions and our feelings and our sensings for something unknown, something suspected, but not experienced in a way that we can believe it every single minute of our lives. So what are we supposed to do then? Are we supposed to just jettison ourselves out into space and say, I don't believe anything? In a way, what we're supposed to do, I feel, is demand for ourselves that what we want, we learn to experience, that we want the direct experience of who we think we are spiritually and who we want to be while we're in our human bodies. I decided to take a little bit of a stab at a sort of ladder, if you will, of opening of one's consciousness to the divine. So using myself, of course, as my laboratory here, the very first step for me was just the idea of God. I didn't really have that in my house that I grew up in. We just really didn't talk about that. But people around me who I went to school with, they all talked about God. And I said, oh, what's that? Oh, well, it's this being, it's this thing, it's this concept. As I went deeper into it, I said, oh, So I have to behave correctly to get godness. And I have to ask permission. These are sort of the older ways of looking at religion, right? Is that God is the punishing father. And of course, the father at that point, when I was a kid, there was no God the mother. And that's not what I was hearing about. I wasn't hearing even about Mary, or I certainly wasn't hearing about the Black Madonna, which is a whole other aspect of the divine feminine. So then I was introduced to the concept of prayer. You must ask God for what you want. Ask and it is given. Really? I don't see anything I'm asking for showing up in my life. Sorry, I can't believe in that. So this is part of like the laddering up. Then I got to the place where it's like, oh, I have to beg, or I have to petition God for something. I have to plead. Please, God, please help me. Now, nothing is wrong with any of this. I just found it ineffective. I wanted effective. So then you might meet a great being and you might have an experience, because experience is the only teacher. We can spout words at each other for millennia, but experience is what really grows us and teaches us. And when I met Amachi, I had that experience and I said, oh my God, God is real. Godness is real. And here is a human body that came in through another human body that is God, that is doing everything, behaving like everything, feeling like everything, that is limitlessness. Holy God, this is real. And I have a direct connection with it. Well, how do I keep that? How do I manifest that? What do I do with that? And of course, all of it fell away as she departed the US. I had nowhere to keep it. I had no grounding. In our culture, we don't have the kind of grounding. We're not given that grounding that allows us to plant the divine within us and then build from there, so that we have greater and different and more marvelous and more interesting explorations of how do I connect? How am I already connected? What can I do to prove to myself? We don't naturally have all that in our culture. Some 30 years ago, I found a card, a greeting card at Amachi's. And I kept it all this time because it thrilled me and confused me all at the same time. And it said, to have faith in yourself, capital S, is the same as having faith in God. To have faith in yourself is the same as having faith in God. And I read that and I said, wait, how am I supposed to have faith in this person who is lost, who has emotional problems, who is just floating through life going, what is happening? How could that ever help me? So all of this is question on question that allows me to keep growing in my questing and keeps me away from dogma, from saying, I'm just going to believe in this stuff, and maybe it's just all my fault that I can't understand it. So at some point, we can decide to jettison the beliefs that have been given to us that we haven't yet proved in the crucible of our own laboratories. We can decide to either jettison them or test them. Now, testing is marvelous, because what happens with this is that you discover that there's something that I like to call the Velcro principle. you will find that what is nonsense on this side makes great sense on this side. They're just so close, it's hard to see the difference. It's just hard. So God the Father is a really good one. If I think of God the Father as somebody who's going to give to me if I ask nicely and I'm a good girl, it doesn't work that way. At least it sure doesn't work that way for me. But if I think of God the Father as the source, the energy source that is always giving everything to me, has already given everything to me, and that it is my job to begin to align with the energetics of all of those already given mysteries. See how close those are? Do you see how Velcroed those are? Same words, different concepts. One makes you enslaved. Oh, please, God, please, Daddy, give me what I want, please. I don't know how to do it, so you give it to me. The other is, I have a job to do because I am made of you, and I'm going to figure out how to merge with you. And I'm going to take that a step at a time because I get such fulfillment and joy. So I want to share with you, when you think of dogma, well, when I think of dogma, I think of things we're supposed to, that we negatively believe, right? Like God is the punisher, things like that from the sort of old school of way of thinking. And I think of dogma that way. But here's the thing, we have positive understandings now, and we can call them dogma and not harm ourselves because they're very positive. I am made of God's stuff. That's fabulous. Some part of us knows this to be true. I am made of God. I come from that. I will return to that. I will always be made of that. But do we really believe it? When we also entertain, I'm a limited human being. I'm not talking about what you say you understand with your mind. We're going deeper with this. We're going into, what do you actually emotionally align with? And which do you give more airtime to in your head, in your thoughts, in your emotional alignment? We say this one a lot. I know I say it a lot. I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. If we actually were holding ourselves to trying to be that and understand that and live that and explore some of that, we would be doing things like saying, well, if I am a spiritual being having a human experience, what does that mean? What does that mean? And how can I live? What would it mean for me to live that way? We certainly wouldn't be saying, I'm only human. I'm only human is a lie. You are not only human. In fact, your vibrational spiritual being is, and which is translated through your emotions. That's the easiest place to see them, is through your emotions, is what is creating your physicality. It's what's creating the possibilities that are coming and going or not coming and going. I'm made of the energy that creates worlds. Love this phrase. This is from Abraham Hicks. I am made of the energy that creates worlds. Can we please get more literal about the spiritual things we say we believe? If I am made of the energy that creates worlds, then fill in the blank for yourself. Fill it in. You don't want to say, there are many things I cannot do. You can do whatever you want. I don't mean that I can get the perfect lover or the perfect job by snapping my fingers. I mean, I am able. I may not know how yet, but I'm able because of these first three truths on the left-hand side. Because I am made of God's stuff. Remember this? Jesus said those things that he did, we will do. I don't think so. It's not like I'm Jesus. You actually are. God is love. I'm afraid if I say this thing that I'm kind of going against. This is where we get afraid of the actual negative dogma. I'm afraid that if I say the wrong thing, I'm sinning. I'm saying the wrong thing. I'm not going to get that love from God. And what I just said a second ago, I can have, be, or do anything. No, I can't. Only God can do that. Only God. And this way we limit ourselves. We say God gave us free will. And then we say things like, ooh, I can't do that thing because that would be bad. That God wouldn't like that. So these are very, very challenging sorts of things that I'm offering to you tonight. And I know that not everybody's going to resonate with this. Not everybody's going to say, oh, I really like that. That's perfect. But because everybody should have their own journey, everybody should have their own questions. But I wanted to call this talk No More Dogma because we have to find our own way, and it has to be something that lets us disconnect from the shoulds that have been handed to us by society instead of birthed within us from the divine that we actually. Thank you.
Okay, any comments? Doris, is your hand up? And then Leah and Liz? No, you're okay. Leah, did you want to share a comment? And then Liz, and then Susie?
Lori, I like that. The dogma and versus the other thing to get you to think, are you really saying this or are you really saying that? Because you can't have both. But it brought to me when you say you were trying to be good, so God will give you. And it reminded me of a quote, which of course I don't have it in front of me, but from Matt Kahn. I learned from Matt Kahn, and he gave an example for when he was little in school, and if they were good, they got to like do something. I don't remember what. But he made a comment. He goes, being good is not what brings you what you're searching for, looking for, or want, well, however he worded it. It was more or less knowing that you're worthy to receive what it is you want. Instead of saying, well, if I'm just good, then people are going to give me things because I'm good. He's like, no, it doesn't work that way. Being good has nothing to do with it. Do you feel worthy? And what you talked about does have to do with, do you feel worthy of knowing that you are a part of God, or you are God, however you want to word it, and you are worthy to receive all the good things you're asking for, as long as you ask in the proper way, instead of the begging, oh God, I've been so good, why aren't I? This is more, okay, God, this is what I would like to have. Thank you very much for it. Bring it on. So I like that, but it reminded me what Matt Kahn said. Being good has nothing to do with anything.
Okay, thank you, Leah. Liz?
I just wanted to say thank you, Lori Kay. That was very excellent and really put some things straight in my thinking that were pretty kind of askew just from childhood, as you said. So I wanted to say thank you. That was excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank both of you, and thank you for that, Liz. That's really cool to hear.
Okay, I think Susie, did you want to?
Yes, that was awesome. That really spoke to a lot of stuff I've been struggling with for a long time. But I was hoping to get a picture of that chart you put up. Is there a way we can get it, please? Because that, I mean,
I'll put it in the chat and you guys can download it. Would that help you, Susie? Okay,
I think so. Yes, thank you.
awesome.
Anyway, it was very
Well, thanks, Jill.
helped to clear up some confusion, or at least, oh, look at this in a different way. And I think I can clear up a whole bunch of confusion that I've grown up with and still have. So awesome. Nail on the head. Perfect.
Yeah,
Okay.
what Leah said really helped, because I think I definitely, whether it's been in the workplace or anywhere, feel like, well, if I just do enough good things, then I'll be rewarded, or if I'm just nice enough, they'll be nice to me or something. But it really does not work that way. So I think I really do need to work on that feeling aspect and feeling worthy.
You know, it's actually even beyond the whole worthy thing, because think of it this way. If you are made of that which creates worlds, you're actually beyond worthy. You are worthiness. You are worth. So it really is beginning to feel into your true identity as the child of the core energy. And it's a practice. It's a practicing of that feeling. It's really awesome.
I'll try it.
Okay. Anybody else? Lori Roberts?
Thank you, everybody. I enjoyed the talk and the discussion. A thought came to mind. Our mindset dictates our action. And when we don't think we're worthy, and when we don't realize how much our Creator loved us and what is available to us, many times we live in want simply because we can't find that direction because we feel we're unworthy. So my way of thinking is to allow my mindset of knowing these things to dictate my direction in life, and knowing then that I can get there.
And I'm reminded of how important it is to guard our thoughts and pay attention to what's going on in our head, you know, because I know I work on kind of realizing that I'm in a negative loop, and I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on? This isn't going to work, you know, and trying to shift my thoughts and to bring about a different feeling. Yeah. Okay. So thank you, Lori. That was great. And unless there's any other thoughts,
I'd like to add something.
Okay.
So Jim Palmer was an evangelical preacher. He calls it, he was with a mega church. I don't know what church he was with, but he got to a point where he could no longer preach the Christian doctrine that he was taught, which was an evangelical one. And he now, he has written many books, and he has programs for people that need to disentangle themselves from this belief system if they feel it has hurt them. He calls it toxic religion. And he says this: toxic religion is rooted in fear, especially fear about the afterlife. It leverages the false doctrine of hell to win converts and demand holiness. The fear of God's disapproval, rejection, abandonment, and punishment is another hallmark of toxic religion. And then he says prayer. He says a lot of things. There's actually 14 things that he points out that he wants people to know, but I'm pulling out 2 that were relevant to what you preach, Lori. Prayer doesn't work the way you think it does. You can't bribe God or change God's mind through obedience, devotion, or groveling. The underlying theistic premises of prayer are untenable. A lot of what you spoke about really resonates with me. And I recall in that course that I took with Richard Rohr, he says that about our relationship with God, our understanding of God, that for a mystic, it's not something that is learned, but something that was known. And I think if we all look inside and we turn to our inner authority, we will get some answers that ring true for each one of us. And we each may get different answers, but that's okay. And it totally resonates with what you just said. So very good job. Thank you.
Okay, then let's move into our meditation. Okay, so we just pray in the name of God the Father and Mother and the Holy Spirit and Jesus and all the holy teachers who and the angels and saints. And we are grateful to be together tonight, and we pray for blessings on each of us here and all of those who cannot be here and with us. And can we please keep one another in our prayers this week?